See, he follows directions too.
We learned a long time ago that Navy SEALs always have to listen to Marines, so.
I have a few housekeeping things just to point out. The bathrooms are in the foyer. There is another bathroom through that hallway that way. The auction items are on that table right over there, so as you line up for dinner, be sure and take a look at that. The donors have been seen on the screen behind me. I want to thank them for their support every year. We couldn't do what we do in supporting local candidates in their campaigns if we didn't have a really good fundraiser, and this is our only fundraiser of the year. So thank you for all that you do and all the money that you give. I am the chairman of the committee, and in the past we've had great turnouts, and this is another one, and we're so thankful that you've all come to be with us tonight. I'd like to thank our Lincoln Days committee for their work on tonight's event. They're experienced and dedicated. I never really have to do very much. They just know what to do and they do it. Wave at the folks when I call your name, please. Krista Bruno, Twyla Halley, John Kearns, Bonnie Morris. Rick Shoemaker's not here, he's in Jamaica, folks. He told me he'd rather be here.
It's true.
Especially since the governor's here. Jane Thompson, Sue Williams, Jim Willis, and then there's some additional people who have helped us out greatly. Harold Smith, Aaron Baker, Shirley Sims, Shelley Dean Van Sickle, and Andrew Murphy. Thank you all. Mike and I both served in the Marine Corps during the Vietnam era, and I never want to miss an opportunity to thank the veterans in the midst of us. So if you would, if you're a veteran and you're able to stand, would you please stand so that we can honor you? Will everyone else, I didn't catch you while you were still standing, will everyone else please rise? We're going to have Vietnam veteran Bill Hope lead us in the Pledge to Allegiance. There is a flag right there. Please remain standing for the national anthem to be sung by Chloe Shoemaker and the invocation by our public administrator, Craig Fuller. Okay, Bill.
Join the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chloe, would you please? Chloe Shoemaker is the daughter of Rick and Michelle Shoemaker.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the
Craig Fuller, please lead us in the invocation.
Our Lord Jesus Christ, our Lord and Savior in heaven, God, we are grateful for this moment to come together with our friends and our family and our neighbors. God, as we discuss the nature of our country, as we discuss business, God, we just ask that you would be here among us, and that, God, we would give you praise and glory for all that we have. God, we are so grateful for this free country that we live in. God, we're grateful that you have blessed us with it, and God, you have chosen us to be here and to live here. God, we thank you for the men and women who have fought to keep us free. God, we thank you for the elected officials here who are serving and leading. And we just pray, God, for your wisdom and your guidance. God, we just thank you for this moment. We just ask that you be with us and all that's said and done. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. We were trying to think about who the last Republican sitting governor was to come to our Lincoln Days. And we didn't really come up with it, but it might have been Ashcroft. But we do know that even if Ashcroft was here, it's been at least 25 years since we've had a sitting governor with us. And we are so pleased to have him. And I am pleased to be able to introduce him as a former Navy SEAL who served for deployment overseas, earning a Purple Heart and a Bronze Star. When his unit was hit by a suicide truck bomb, after that he then returned home to Missouri and founded The Mission Continues to help returning veterans find quality jobs and serve in their communities. As Missouri's 56th governor, he has taken on the liberal media, union bosses, and trial lawyers to win more jobs for Missourians. He's led the fight for pro-life reforms and worked to protect children in foster care. The Wall Street Journal writes that he's pursued a muscular conservative agenda, enacting free market reforms. Fox News has named him a power player, and the National Review calls him a rising star. He is a boxing and martial arts champion, and he lives with his wife Sheena and their 2 children, Jacob and Joshua, in Jefferson, Missouri. Most importantly, he is a fighter. He is a fighter for you, a fighter for grassroots, and he is a fighter for Macon County. Let's welcome Governor Eric Greitens.
Good evening. It is great to be with you. Absolutely great to be with you. And Kathy, I'm so grateful to you and to everybody for making an adjustment in the program to allow me to speak early. I have some important work that I have to get to this evening, and that is that I am going to be going home to build a bear den. Now, this demands some explanation. One of the great pleasures I had as governor recently was that I went out with our Missouri Department of Conservation. As you may know, we have several hundred black bears in Missouri, and I took my 3.5-year-old son Joshua with me on a trip to do on this research project for them to visit black bears. Now, as you know, I've done some difficult things in my life, but I sat down with these scientists and I asked them, well, how exactly is this gonna work? And the lead scientist explained to me, she said, well, you see, I've got this big pole. It's got a tranquilizer dart on it, and there's a mama bear, and she's guarding her 2 bear cubs in this den. And she said, the basic plan is that we walk up to the bear den, and then we jab this bear in the shoulder with a tranquilizer dart. I said, that's really the plan? And she said, yeah, that's the plan. It's going to work just fine. Well, I can guarantee you, when they went up to jab this bear in the shoulder, I was kind of looking to my left, looking to my right, figuring, where am I going to go when this mama bear comes out of the den? But the plan worked, and after the bear was tranquilized and they started doing some measurements for the science, Joshua came down. He got to hold a couple of the bear cubs. He got to see the mama bear in the den. It was a fantastic experience, but what it has meant is that every night since then, I have to go home and build him a bear den if he wants to sleep. So that's where I have to head to. Guys, the most important thing that I want you to know tonight is that with Republicans in charge, Missouri is heading in a new and a better direction. We are fulfilling our promises to the people, and we are delivering more jobs and higher pay to the people of Missouri. It's happening. It's happening. As we're gathered here tonight, the unemployment rate in the state of Missouri is the lowest that it has been in 17 years. In 17 years. They just came and they brought us, we follow this closely. All of the deals of businesses that are coming in, businesses that want to expand. And they brought me the data from the third quarter of last year, 2017. We just got this data in. It's data from every state in the country. The rate of growth in the state of Missouri was higher than every single one of our neighboring states. Now, I said to the team, this is fantastic. I mean, when we came into office, Missouri had been 48th in economic growth in the country over the last 2 decades. Now, we're outpacing every single one of our neighbors. So I said to them, can you go back and find for me the last time that happened? So they went back and they looked at all the data. They came back and you know what they said to me? They said, never. Since they've been keeping this data that Missouri is beating all of our neighbors. Now, folks, why is this happening? Why do we have more jobs and higher pay? Why is there a sense of prosperity and optimism again in Missouri? It's because we're delivering on basic common sense Republican conservative government principles. One of the things we're doing, for example, is that we're rolling back regulations. Now, when people think about regulations, they often think about what's happening at the federal government level. And we've helped to roll back some federal regulations. But when I was traveling around the state of Missouri, we heard from farmers, from ranchers, from manufacturers all over the state who just said to us, you got to get the government off of our backs so we can do our job. So on our first week in office, I signed an executive order that put an immediate halt to all new non-emergency regulations. At the same time, I ordered a complete review of every regulation that was on the books in the state of Missouri. Team came back to me, and you know what we found? We found that Missouri had 113,000 regulatory restrictions. And worse, regulations in the state of Missouri over the last 16 years have been growing faster than regulations at the federal level. So we did a complete review of every regulation that was on the books, and man, we found some crazy ones. There was one regulation, there were some small businesses that were required to have a landline phone. And a lot of folks said, look, this is my small business, I'm running it, I don't need a landline phone. It was costing them hundreds of dollars. We reached out to people, farmers, ranchers, business owners, citizens, said, how can we roll back regulations? Well, I can tell you this, as we're standing here tonight, we are rolling back 1 out of every 3. We're getting rid of 33,000 regulatory restrictions in the state of Missouri. And when we do things like that, people around the country notice. Missouri has recently moved up 9 places in the rankings of the best states to do business. And we're not done. We're fighting for you. We're going to, this session, lower taxes on the people of Missouri and lower taxes on businesses. We're going to get it done, folks. We're going to get it done. Now, look, as all of you know, when you go to to Jefferson City and you fight for conservative principles, and you carry the mission of the grassroots to Jefferson City and say, we're going to get it done. We're going to do people what we promised we're going to do. It does not make everybody happy. And we have angered the liberal media, and they will viciously and nastily attack us along with their allies. As I think as all of you know, last year I called a special pro-life special session of the legislature. Why? Because we needed to protect our pregnancy care centers. As many of you know, there were folks in St. Louis, Missouri, who proposed these rules that were attacking our pregnancy care centers. These are wonderful centers where they do great work for pregnant women and their newborn children, providing them with education, providing them with shelter, providing them with training that they need to support themselves and their young families. And they were under attack. So we called a special session of the legislature, a pro-life special session, to get this legislation passed. And we got it done. But recently, just a week or so ago, a couple of lawyers in our office came in and they said, Governor, they said, because of the work that you did, passing that pro-life legislation to protect pregnancy care centers, they said, you are now being sued by the Satanic Temple. And I said, guys, if we're being sued by Satan's lawyers, we're doing something right. Okay, we are doing something right. And we're not. I'll tell you another thing we're doing different now in Missouri. We're letting every law enforcement officer in this state know that we have their back and we support our law enforcement officers in Missouri. As many of you know, one of the reasons why I ran for office, I'd never been involved in politics before, is I thought what happened at Ferguson was a disgrace. And you saw, we handled things completely differently when that Stockley verdict came down in St. Louis, Missouri. We were very clear. We said, look, our law enforcement officers, they're going to go out and they're going to protect everyone's constitutional rights. Everybody has a right to freedom of assembly. Everyone has a right to freedom of speech. And our law enforcement officers are going to go out and they're going to protect everybody's constitutional rights. But we're also very clear that throwing a brick through a window, it's not free speech. If you assault a law enforcement officer, you're going to be arrested. And in Ferguson, they had this idea that they wanted to provide people who were looting and burning with a safe space to loot and burn. We told people, right now, if you loot and you burn, the only safe space you're going to find is in a jail cell. And we're really I'm proud of the fact that we've got conservatives who are going in every day and they're fighting for the forgotten. People who don't have lobbyists. People who need us to remember them. We've got 13,000 kids in Missouri's foster care system. Folks, those are our kids. They're our kids both in law and in spirit. And we have fantastic Republicans, conservatives who come in, and we have a robust agenda to protect and support our kids in foster care. Simple things are being changed. When we came into office, Sheena found out that if you called the child abuse hotline from an out-of-state number, it hung up on you. So we changed it. She found out that we were charging kids in foster care for a copy of their own birth certificate. Birth certificate that they need to get a driver's license, to get a job. So we're changing that to support those kids and to support their families. And one of the things that I want to emphasize is that, in the SEAL teams, we always emphasize anything worthwhile that's going to get done, it can only get done by a team. And we have a fantastic team of Republicans and conservatives who are fighting. Both people who are in elected office and at the grassroots. And for me, as I look around this room, I look around and I see a United States Marine, Paul Curtin. a representative who's fighting to cut taxes, who's fighting to lower regulations, who's fighting for limited government. I see Craig Redmond, who's in my office today, wanting to make sure that in the budget we are supporting and protecting rural Missouri. Cindy O'Loughlin, isn't it fantastic to have a grassroots leader who's not afraid to stand up and fight against the liberal media? Guys like Lyndall Shoemaker, Tim Remley. Tim's coming in next week. I think we're having lunch with a family who was having some challenges with the foster care system. Guys, we've got a fantastic team of people who are getting this done. And you got Robin Simpson and Robbie Brook and Stephanie Jacobson, folks who are fighting at the grassroots level to get this done. Now, what I see every day is that when you see the reality of what's happening, more jobs and higher pay, regulations being lifted, prosperity coming back to Missouri, kids in foster care being protected, you see the reality of what we're doing. What we also know is that the liberal media is never going to give Republicans credit for anything. If all the Republicans here, everybody who's fighting, if we got up and walked across the Mississippi River together, the headline in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch would say, Republicans can't swim. Okay? But the fact is, we're doing the right thing. And we're doing it as a team. And we're making a difference for the people of Missouri. You know, when I was in the SEAL teams, we went through some pretty difficult training. And I remember that there came a moment, we're in this thing called Hell Week, where you don't sleep for a week. We'd probably been up at that point for 48 some hours. We're walking down the beach, and we're in this boat crew. We're holding a log that weighs a couple 100 pounds. We're walking through soft sand. And I remember thinking to myself, if I were alone right now, I might quit. But you know what? There's somebody to my left who's counting on me. And there's somebody to my right who's counting on me. And I said, you know what? For them, I can stay strong for 10 more seconds. I said, you know what? For them, I can stay strong for 1 more minute. For them, I can stay strong for 10 more minutes. And when you took the focus off of yourself, no matter what the pain was that they were bringing, no matter what kind of suffering, no matter what kind of difficulty, no matter what kind of challenges they threw at you, if you took the focus off of yourself and you remembered the people who were counting on you, it kept you strong. And I want you to know that every single day as governor, when I look to my left, I see you. And when I look to my right, I see your family and your friends and your neighbors and our communities. And I want to tell you, it is an honor to fight for you every single day. And I'm proud to be back in Macon. Thank you guys, and God bless you.
Just take a seat. I just have one more thing before we're going to eat. I failed to mention that in the back there are a couple of petitions that you might be interested in. One is the right to work. You want to wave at them where you are. The right to work petition, and then also taking care of our monuments. Also, there's another one. So you'll want to make your way over there sometime this evening and sign those. You know, I would like to publicly thank Larry and Jane Ann Stacy. They're with us tonight. Would you please stand? And I want to tell you a little bit about them. They're long-time, dedicated, hard-working Republicans who back in the 60s and 70s, with many others who were here as well, fought the good fight to bring forth Republican ideals. They have recently retired from the committee. They've been on the committee for years and years. And so I chose to honor them tonight and to let you all know that way back when they were just getting started in the 60s and 70s and forming the Republican Club, they could have met in a broom closet. But look at us now. So thank you, Larry and James. I do want to tell you that as well as prime rib tonight, we do have chicken breasts available as well if you choose to take advantage of that and you don't want the prime rib. I mean, you know, how nuts is that? But if you can't eat prime rib or beef or something, there is chicken available as well. And at this time, I would like to ask our sponsors here in the round tables and to make their way through the buffet line. And then the rest of you just follow in as you see the opportunity. Have a wonderful dinner.
Let me fill your plate for you. I know.